Reading from The Gun Rights War by Neal Knox. This is section 3, page 149. This part is labeled Grabbers Never Satisfied, and it's dated December 10th, 1994. There is no such thing as enough gun control to suit the anti-gun crowd. To hear U.S. anti-gunners tell it, Canada's gun laws are a perfect model for the U.S. Congress. But they're not enough for Canadian Justice Minister Alan Rock, who just announced a further tightening of their gun laws, with confiscation of some guns, prohibition of most now restricted handguns, and military-looking semi-autos, and registration of all firearms. The most sweeping part of the package is a requirement that every 5 years, gun owners would have to reestablish that they have a valid reason to own firearms. When owners and some minority legislators objected, Rock huffily declared that the government would not budge. He predicted, according to the delighted Toronto Globe and Mail, eventually Canadians will consider the system no more a nuisance than seatbelts. In order to go after criminals, I need a registration system, he said. Why? Canadian criminals are no more going to register their guns than do U.S. criminals. The U.S. Supreme Court has declared criminals don't even have to, for under Fifth Amendment freedom from self-incrimination, they can't be forced to admit possessing that which they are prohibited from having. In 1978, Jimmy Carter announced a bill requiring registration of young men for the draft, while claiming that no one would be drafted. The Washington Post editorially thundered that the only reason for registration for the draft was conscription. For once, the Post was right, and the only reason for registrations of firearms is confiscation. When the gun registration laws are enacted, the backers claim that they'll never be used for confiscation, but they were in D.C., Cleveland, San Francisco, and most recently, New York City, where in the fall of 1993 used its 1966 long gun registration law to confiscate newly banned military-looking semi-autos. New Jersey used dealer records to confiscate guns banned by its new assault weapons law. The 17 types of assault pistols, combat shotguns, and rifles now registered under Canadian law were to be confiscated with compensation by January 1st. Canada's gun laws are based on the same French laws that allowed the Nazis to disarm the citizenry in World War II. But that sad experience did not teach them anything. The French Separatist Party declared that Rock did not go far enough. Although the plan is similar to what the Coalition for Gun Control has been advocating, they're unhappy it wouldn't be quicker. Registration would be phased in over 5 years. Some 1.2 million handguns and other restricted weapons are presently registered in Canada. If, as the government estimates, there are 6 million guns in the country, the new law is expected to cost at least $410 million. Gun groups say, but they believe there are over 20 million guns to be registered. The proposed law, which is almost certain to be enacted, flatly prohibits pistols in 25 and 32 caliber, or those with under a 4.1-inch barrel. But owners on January 1st, 1995 may keep them for the present. 19 military-style rifles such as the AK and FN would be confiscated. Guns like the AR-15 and Ruger Mini-14 could no longer be sold or purchased, but the current owners could keep them. Crossbows would be treated as firearms. Those designed to be operated with one hand would be banned. The sale and possession of imitation firearms would be prohibited. Vietnam just banned all toy guns or anything that looks like a weapon. So long as private citizens have the means to use deadly force to defend themselves, their families, and their communities against hoodlums and criminals, including those wearing badges and jackboots, there are certain fuzzy-headed members of society and not so fuzzy-headed proponents of total, absolute control by government who will advocate ever more restrictive weapons laws. Those among our ranks who think we should make a deal to relinquish some rights to prevent or postpone more restrictive laws are fools. Rhino ammo hoax is the next section. Starts on page 151, dated January 3, 1995. Last week, all television networks and major newspapers carried reports of a devastating new bullet, one that would penetrate police officers' Kevlar vests, then blow a baseball-sized hole. Immediately, anti-gun police, the American College of Emergency Physicians, and the American Medical Association editorial writers and various politicians demanded that the deadly black rhino bullets be banned. The outgoing chairman of the House Judiciary Subcommittee, Representative Charles Schumer, Democrat from New York, called a press conference to announce he intended to introduce legislation to ban the black rhino and any other bullet that would penetrate police officers' Kevlar vests. The incoming Republican chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Henry Hyde, a Republican from Illinois, and the new Crime Subcommittee Chairman Bill McCollum, Republican from Florida, were quoted by the Chicago Tribune as saying they wanted to close the gap on present armor-piercing bullet bans to include the rhino ammo. On This Week with David Brinkley on ABC, Hyde said, "I see no purpose for bullets that will penetrate bulletproof vests. Antelope don't wear bulletproof vests." NRA put out a press release pointing out that any bullet that would break up into fragments, which become lethal shrapnel, as the inventor claimed, was unlikely to penetrate a Kevlar vest. The claims had all the trappings of a hoax. Amazingly, NBC Nightline agreed after they had H.P. White Laboratories test some sample 45 ACP rhino ammo. The maker, David Keene, had refused samples of the vest-piercing black rhino. ABC found the expanding rhino bullets produced a less significant wound than conventional ammo, didn't nearly reach the claimed 1,820 feet per second in a 45, and that the velocities were so inconsistent that the ammunition was unlikely to function a pistol. Nightline accused the media and politicians of a knee-jerk reaction, eager to trumpet any story that would feed their prejudices, and they declared the elusive black rhino to be as rare as the mythical unicorn. Schumer called the maker a charlatan, but insisted he hadn't just targeted rhino bullets, but all bullets designed at killing cops. ILA Executive Director Tanya Makecha, who was also on the program, was cut off as she tried to ask Schumer how a law could determine whether a bullet was aimed at a cop or a rapist. That's the issue. How any bullet is used, not whether it can penetrate a Kevlar vest. Any cloth vest or any type of armor can be penetrated if a bullet is hard enough, sharp enough, or particularly fast enough. The Kevlar vest was never intended to be bulletproof. It was designed as a Justice Department's project and a compromise between comfort garment and one that would meet the most likely threat, a gun carried by the officer. Thus, the original Type 1 vest, 6 layers of Kevlar, was introduced to stop the standard 38 Special. But when officers upgraded to the 357 and crooks started using the 9mm instead of cheap 22s and 25, thanks to the Saturday Night Special bullet ban, thanks to the Saturday Night Special bans, the 16-layer Type 2 vest was developed as the most bullet-resistant vest that could be regularly worn with reasonable comfort. By talking about a bullet that will penetrate the Type 2 vest and produce devastating wounds, Keene was able to obtain immediate, intensive news coverage and get politicians from both parties dancing to Handgun Control's tune. That may have been the intent, for Keene described himself to the New York Times as a gun control advocate. If he had intended only to hype his product, as most assume, he would have gone to the magazines that reach potential users, not by calling Newsweek and making exorbitant claims. The ammo he sent to Newsweek was the The ammo he sent Newsweek was what HP White Labs tested. It proved he knew no more about making ammo than selling it. Now 45 ammo had lightweight 128 grain hollow point bullets containing number 5 pellets in a plastic material. It was loaded with inappropriate WW-296 propellant and produced velocities of 1400, 1200, and 794 FPS. It looked, but didn't perform, similar to MagSafe ammo, whose maker had been contacted by Keen for both technical information and to buy a small quantity of blister packaging. So what was Keen trying to do? Stir up press for Congress and Sarah Brady? If so, it worked.
Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com.